Our calendar seems simple, a grid of months and days on the wall. But what if this order is a modern illusion, a simplified shadow of something far deeper? Long before our digital clocks, ancient civilizations engineered timekeeping systems of breathtaking complexity, turning the sky itself into a divine machine. These were not mere date keepers, they were cosmological maps, social contracts, and windows into the human soul. By the end of this journey through 30 astonishing ancient calendars, you will never look at a single day the same way again. We will encounter stone discs that predicted cosmic doom, cycles that required priests to perform terrifying ceremonies to stop the world from ending, and calculations so precise they rival our own computers. How did a society without telescopes track the wobble of the Earth over 26,000 years? What secret code kept an empire running for centuries using only the moon and the stars? The answers lie in forgotten numbers and celestial patterns. What does our own hunger for order in the universe say about us? To understand such cosmic ambition, we must begin with the masters of celestial mathematics, the Maya. Their system was not one calendar, but several interlocking wheels of time, each spinning at a different speed for a different purpose. At the heart of daily life was the Tzolk'in, a 260-day sacred calendar. This was not based on any obvious astronomical cycle like the sun or moon, but on a profound human rhythm. It combined 20-day names like Imix or Akbal with 13 numbers, creating 260 unique combinations before the cycle repeated. Think of it as a spiritual almanac dictating the fortune of a day, the character of a person born under its sign, and the proper time for rituals. Spinning alongside it was the Hob, a 365-day solar calendar of 18 months with 20 days each, plus a short, ominous 5-day period known as Wayeb, considered a dangerous and unlucky time. These two calendars, the sacred Tzolk'in and the solar Hob, meshed together like intricate gears in a cosmic clock. A specific date required a designation from both cycles, and it took a full 52 solar years for this combined calendar round to repeat. This created a societal heartbeat, a rhythm of renewal where grand ceremonies would mark the alignment and prevent the world from slipping into chaos. But for recording history across vast stretches of time, the Maya developed something truly monumental, the long count. This was a linear calendar, counting forward from a mythical starting point they believed was in August of the year 3114 before Common Era. Its genius and complexity lay in its base 20 or Videsimal counting system, akin to using our fingers and toes. Days called K-in, gathered into larger units, Yuanals of 20 days, tons of 360 days, Kayatons of 7,200 days, and Biaktons of 144,000 days. A date would be written as a series of these periods, creating an address in deep time so precise it could pinpoint a day millions of years in the past or future. This brings us to the infamous 13th Bayakton, which concluded on December 21, 2012. In popular culture, this was twisted into a prophecy of global apocalypse. For the ancient Maya, however, it was likely viewed as the end of a grand cycle and the beginning of a new world age, a cosmic transition much like our New Year's celebration, but on a scale of millennia. The true marvel is the obsessive precision behind it all. By tracking the movements of Venus, the phases of the moon, and solar eclipses over centuries, Mayan astronomers corrected their calendars to an accuracy that rivals our own. Their calendars were not just for counting days, they were a manifestation of a belief that time itself was a sacred, living force that required careful stewardship. Such precision did not emerge from idle observation. It was the product of a relentless, generations-long project to decode the mechanics of the heavens, a project recorded in bark paper books like the Dresden Codex. Within its fragile pages, you find not just myths, but mathematical tables of astonishing accuracy. the Maya tracked the planet Venus with obsessive detail, recognizing its 584-day cycle of appearances as the morning and evening star. Their calculations in the Dresden Codex predicted its positions for centuries, correcting the cycle to an error of just 1 day in 500 years. This was not mere stargazing, it was celestial engineering. They synchronized this Venus calendar with their solar hub and their sacred Tzolk'in, creating a grand lunisolar harmony. They even tracked the moon's phases and predicted eclipses with a table spanning 177 days, a tool that allowed the priestly class to demonstrate divine foresight, to know when the celestial serpent would seem to devour the sun. This mastery was wielded by the Ajkin, the keepers of days. These calendar priests were the technocrats of the cosmos, the ones who could read the celestial code and translate it into earthly commands. By consulting their tables, they determined the precise, astronomically correct days to plant maize, when to conduct a royal marriage for maximum fortune, and most crucially, when to wage war. Military campaigns were launched under specific celestial alignments, believed to channel the power of the stars themselves. There is even compelling evidence, encoded in the long count and their mythology, that the Maya were aware of the grandest celestial clock of all, the precession of the equinoxes. This is the slow, 26,000-year wobble of Earth's axis that gradually shifts the backdrop of the stars against the sun. To perceive this imperceptibly slow drift without telescopes is a staggering intellectual feat, suggesting they viewed their own civilization as a single moment within a cosmic story of vast cyclical rebirth. Their calendar was therefore the ultimate source of power, a tool that claimed to reveal the immutable will of the gods, dictating the rhythm of life from the royal court to the maize field. While the Maya built their cosmos from interlocking cycles of time, the Aztecs carved theirs in stone. Towering at over 11 feet in diameter and weighing 24 tons, the Aztec calendar stone, or sunstone, is not a simple timekeeping device. It is a monumental map of the universe, a declaration of cosmic order and terrifying fragility. At its center glares the face of Tanatia, the sun god, his tongue a sacrificial flint knife, demanding the nourishment of blood and human hearts to continue his daily journey across the sky. This central image sets the tone for everything that follows, a world view where time itself is sustained by ritual and sacrifice. Surrounding Tanatia are 4 squares, each representing a previous sun or world age that had been catastrophically destroyed by jaguars, wind, fiery rain, and water. The Aztecs believed they lived in the 5th and final sun, destined one day to be annihilated by earthquakes. Every symbol on this massive disk reinforces a single idea that the present world is precarious and its survival depends on human action. The next ring out contains the 20 sacred day signs that form the heart of the Tonal Pohueli, the 260-day ritual calendar. These are not abstract names, but vivid icons like the crocodile, the house, the rabbit, and the flint knife. Each day sign carried its own potent spiritual force, and like the Maya Tzolk'in, this calendar guided every aspect of life, from naming a child to determining the fate of a military campaign. Priests known as Tonalpauk would consult this sacred count to find the most auspicious moments for any undertaking. Yet this was only one measure of time in the Aztec world. Running parallel was the Zu Pohueli, the 365-day solar calendar used for agriculture and civil life. It consisted of 18 months of 20 days each, plus 5 unlucky hollow days called Nemontemi. These 2 cycles, the sacred 260-day Tonal Pohueli and the solar 365-day Zu Pohueli, spun independently like mismatched gears. They would only realign, completing a full calendar round once every 52 years. This period, the Zumulpili, was the most critical and terrifying moment in Aztec society. As the final day of the 52-year cycle approached, a profound dread settled over the empire. The priests believed that if the stars, particularly the Pleiades cluster, continued their motion across the sky at midnight, the world would be allowed to continue. But if the stars failed to appear, it meant the sun would not rise again, and demons of darkness would descend to devour humanity. To avert this apocalypse, they performed the new fire ceremony. Every flame in every home, temple, and palace throughout the realm was extinguished. The world was plunged into symbolic darkness. Then, on a sacred hill, priests would sacrifice a captive warrior of high status. On his open chest, they would use a fire drill to ignite a new flame. This first spark, born from sacrifice, was then carried by relay runners to light temples and hearths across the empire, symbolically restarting time and guaranteeing another 52 years of life for the fifth son. The calendar stone, therefore, is a permanent record of this immense pressure, a stone-bound reminder that the entire cosmos required constant, ritualized human effort to keep it from collapsing into eternal night. Across the ocean, a different kind of pressure shaped time, not from the fear of cosmic collapse, but from the practical demands of an empire built between two rivers. In the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, the Babylonians engineered a calendar that was less a declaration of destiny and more a tool of meticulous administration. Theirs was a lunisolar system, a constant negotiation between the moon's silver phases and the sun's relentless march through the seasons. A new month began not with a calculation, but with a simple, direct observation, the first sliver of a crescent moon visible in the twilight sky. This made each month either 29 or 30 days long, creating a lunar year of roughly 354 days. The problem was immediate. A lunar year falls short of the solar year by about 11 days. If left unchecked, a festival for the spring harvest would slowly drift through the seasons, eventually being celebrated in the dead of winter. To solve this, the Babylonians introduced a masterstroke of bureaucratic timekeeping, the intercalary month. This was not a fixed rule, but a decree. Expert astronomer priests watching the stars and the behavior of crops would announce when an extra month needed to be inserted to realign the calendar with the agricultural cycle. This power made the calendar a living document, constantly adjusted by human authority to mirror the heavens and secure the kingdom's prosperity. This flexible, observational system became the bedrock for timekeeping across the ancient Near East. Its core structure, the lunisolar principle of lunar months corrected by extra months, was directly inherited by the Hebrew calendar, which still uses it for religious observances today. It also provided the essential lunar framework that the Islamic calendar would later refine into a purely lunar system, uncorrected by the sun, which is why Islamic holy months migrate through the solar year. But the Babylonian contribution to how we mark time is even more personal. It lives in our weekly routine. They are credited with formalizing the 7-day week, a unit of time with no obvious astronomical basis like a month or year. Each of these days was dedicated to one of the 7 celestial bodies they could see moving against the fixed stars, the sun, the moon, and the 5 visible planets. This is why, in languages like English, Saturday is named for Saturn, Sunday for the sun, and Monday for the moon. Their legacy, however, was not just in naming days, but in predicting celestial events with mathematical rigor. Babylonian astronomers, compiling centuries of observations on clay tablets, discovered the Saros cycle. They noticed that eclipses, both solar and lunar, repeat in a pattern of approximately 18 years and 11 days. This meant that if you witnessed a total eclipse, you could predict with high confidence that a very similar eclipse would occur one Saros cycle later. This was not magic, it was the birth of mathematical astronomy, the understanding that the cosmos operated on predictable, calculable cycles. Their calendar, therefore, was more than a farmer's almanac. It was the first evidence of a profound shift, the belief that time and the heavens could not only be observed but calculated, tamed by numbers, and used to foresee the future itself. The Babylonian obsession with calculation found a stark contrast along the banks of the Nile. In Egypt, the calendar was born not from the shifting moon, but from the sun's unwavering rule and the river's life-giving pulse. While Mesopotamia tinkered with lunar months, the Egyptians made a breathtakingly simple and radical choice. They created one of history's first purely solar calendars. They divided the year into 3 seasons, each tied to the agricultural rhythm of the Nile. Akhet, the inundation when the river flooded and deposited its rich black silt. Peret, the emergence when the waters receded and farmers planted their seeds in the fertile mud. And Shemu, the harvest, the dry season of reaping and gathering. Each of these seasons contained 4 months of exactly 30 days, resulting in a clean 360-day year, but they didn't stop there. To complete the solar cycle, they appended 5 extra days at the year's end. These were the epagonal days, considered outside of normal time, each one a birthday for a major deity: Osiris, Horus, Seth, Isis, and Nephthys. It was a time of celebration, but also of danger, as the boundaries between the divine and mortal worlds were believed to be thin. This 365-day civil calendar was a masterpiece of bureaucratic elegance. It was predictable, easy to administer, and perfectly synchronized with the slow, majestic flooding of the Nile, or so it seemed. The Egyptians had noticed that the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, which they called Sopdet, coincided with the start of the annual flood. Their calendar was designed to keep this celestial event, and by extension the Nile's life-giving cycle, fixed on the same calendar date every year, but here lay a subtle, creeping flaw. A true solar year is not 365 days exactly, but about 365 1/4 days. Their calendar was short by roughly 6 hours each year. This created what is known as the wandering year. Each new year began about 6 hours earlier relative to the solar events. Over 4 years, the calendar slipped back by a full day. Over a lifetime, the seasons would slowly march through the months. The festival meant for the flood would eventually fall during the harvest. This drift was so slow, however, that it took over 1,400 years for the calendar to complete a full cycle through the seasons and return to its original alignment. For generations, this wasn't a crisis, it was simply the way time worked. Priests and officials would occasionally make note of the discrepancy between the civil calendar and the actual rising of Sirius. But the simple, elegant 365-day system remained in place for millennia, a testament to its profound utility. The final correction to this ancient drift came not from a native pharaoh, but from a Greek ruler of Egypt, Ptolemy III. In 238 before Common Era, he decreed that a single day should be added every 4 years, a leap day, to lock the calendar to the sun. But the conservative Egyptian priesthood resisted, and the reform failed. It would take the might of Rome to finally impose the solution. Julius Caesar, advised by the Alexandrian astronomer Sosigenes, imported the fixed Egyptian solar framework and the concept of the leap year to create the Julian calendar, the direct ancestor of our own. So the next time you glance at a calendar, remember that its steady solar heartbeat first began with the ancient Egyptians, who looked at the sun and the river and decided to build time from the ground up. While the Egyptians anchored their year to the sun and the river, another civilization wove time from a far more intricate loom of philosophy and celestial harmony. The traditional Chinese calendar is a masterpiece of lunisolar engineering, a system so sophisticated it has guided festivals, farming, and imperial rule for millennia, and still dictates the dates of celebrations like the Lunar New Year today. Its core challenge was the same one faced in Babylon, reconciling the moon's monthly cycle with the sun's annual journey. But the Chinese solution was not based on observation alone. It was governed by a set of precise mathematical rules that turned timekeeping into a form of high art. A standard year contains 12 lunar months, each beginning on the day of the new moon. But since 12 lunar months only total about 354 days, the calendar would quickly fall out of sync with the seasons. To correct this, the system inserts an entire extra month, a leap month, approximately every 2 to 3 years. The decision of where to place this month is not arbitrary. It follows a strict astronomical rule tied to the solar year, which is divided into 24 solar terms. These terms, like spring begins or grain in ear, mark specific points in the sun's apparent path. A month that contains no major solar term at its midpoint is designated as the leap month, a brilliant rule that keeps the lunar months perfectly anchored to the solar seasons year after year. This creates a dynamic, ever-adjusting rhythm where time breathes, expanding with an extra month when needed to maintain cosmic balance. But the true depth of the system lies in a larger, more profound cycle that governs not just years but entire eras. This is the 60-year cycle, known as the sexagenary cycle. It is formed by the elegant pairing of two sets of symbols. The first are the 10 heavenly stems, which are linked to the ancient concepts of yin and yang and the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. The second are the 12 earthly branches, each associated with a familiar animal from the Chinese zodiac: the rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. By combining one stem with one branch, you get a unique designation like Yang Wood Dragon or Yin Fire Rabbit. It takes 60 distinct combinations before the cycle repeats, providing a name for every single year. This 60-year period was more than a calendar. It was the fundamental clock of history. Dynasties planned their great projects within its frame. Emperors aligned their reigns with its turning, and every person's destiny was thought to be influenced by the specific elemental and animal energies of their birth year. The philosophy behind it is a cosmic engine. Yin and yang, the complementary forces of dark and light, passive and active, interplay with the transformative phases of the 5 elements. This creates a dynamic model of the universe where time itself is a flowing energy, with specific qualities that influence everything from statecraft to personal fortune. An emperor would consult the calendar's portents to determine the most auspicious day for a coronation or a military campaign, believing the very energy of the cosmos could be harnessed for success. For everyday people, it dictated the timing of weddings, the start of construction on a home, and of course, the vibrant, explosive celebration of the new year, which marks the first new moon of the year according to this lunisolar calculation. In this system, a date is not just a number, it is a cosmic address, rich with philosophical meaning and celestial intention. But what if a single date could hold 5 different layers of meaning, each a vital limb of time itself? This is the reality within the Hindu calendar, known as the Panchanga, a word that literally translates to 5 limbs. Far more than a simple date on a wall, the Panchanga is a daily astrological almanac, a complex formula that calculates the precise celestial mood of every single moment. To understand a day in this system, you must assemble it from these 5 distinct components. The first limb is the thai, a lunar day. This is not the same as our sunrise to sunrise day. A thai is the time it takes for the longitudinal angle between the moon and sun to increase by 12 degrees. Since the moon's speed varies, a thai can last anywhere from about 19 to roughly 26 hours. This creates a fluid, elastic quality to the lunar month, where days stretch and contract with the moon's dance. The second limb is Vara, the simple weekday, much like our own 7-day cycle. The third is the nakshatra, perhaps the most poetic of the limbs. These are the 27 or 28 lunar mansions, specific sectors of the sky along the moon's monthly path, each named for a star or constellation. The nakshatra occupied by the moon at any given time is considered deeply influential, governing personal temperament and the suitability for important actions. The fourth limb, yoga, is another lunisolar measure. It is the combined longitudinal motion of the sun and moon divided into 27 segments. While a Thai tracks their separation, a yoga tracks their union, representing a specific quality of energy for that period. Finally, the Karana is a half Thai, an even finer division used for determining the auspiciousness of the shorter phases within a day, crucial for timing the start of journeys or business ventures. To use the Panchanga, a priest or astrologer would calculate the status of all 5 limbs for a given sunrise. The specific combination would tell you whether the day was ideal for a wedding, a groundbreaking ceremony, or a quiet period of reflection. This system manifests in 2 primary forms across the subcontinent. In the south of India, the Saura or solar calendar is predominant, where the year is based on the sun's movement through the zodiac, and the months are named after the solar constellations. In the north, the Chandramana or Lunisolar calendar is more common, where months are lunar but extra months are added to keep pace with the sun, similar to the Chinese system. This incredible precision is why festivals like Diwali, the festival of lights, or Holi, the festival of colors, fall on different Gregorian dates each year. Their timing is not arbitrary. Diwali is celebrated on the new moon day of the lunar month of Kartika, a specific Thai within a specific lunar mansion under a specific yoga. The Panchanga ensures that the festival arrives not just on a convenient weekend, but at the exact celestial moment deemed most powerful for its spiritual meaning. It is a calendar that does not merely mark time, but listens to it, passing the heavens into a detailed report on the universe's ever-shifting state. The deep philosophical layers of the Hindu Panchanga stand in stark contrast to a calendar whose physical form has been almost entirely lost to time. For the Inca, time was not written on paper or carved in stone tablets. It was etched into the very landscape of the Andes. With no known written script, the Inca calendar must be painstakingly reconstructed from 2 fragile sources: the often biased chronicles of Spanish conquistadors and priests, and the silent, enduring testimony of monumental architecture. What emerges from this detective work is the outline of a sophisticated dual system, masterfully blending the practical needs of a mountain empire with profound cosmic belief. For agriculture, the lifeblood of Tahuantinsuyu, the Inca relied on a solar calendar. Spanish accounts describe 12 solar months, each beginning with the new moon and tied to specific agricultural tasks or festivals. But the true genius of tracking the sun likely lay on the horizon surrounding their capital, Cusco. Researchers believe the Inca used a system of stone pillars called sucanca, erected on the hills encircling the city. By observing the sunrise and sunset positions relative to these pillars from a fixed central point, often the Coricancha, the temple of the sun, priests could pinpoint solstices, equinoxes, and the transitions between months with incredible precision. The sun's journey between these stone markers painted a celestial clock across the sky, dictating when to plant potatoes at one altitude or maize at another. Running alongside this solar count was a separate ritual calendar governed by the moon. This lunar cycle likely organized the elaborate sequence of religious ceremonies that wove through the year. At the center of both systems was the overwhelming presence of Inti, the sun god. The Sapa Inca was considered the direct son of Inti, a living deity whose right to rule was intrinsically tied to maintaining the cosmic order. The calendar was the ultimate expression of this sacred contract. Its careful observance ensured the sun would continue its journey, the rains would come, and the empire would prosper. This belief exploded into spectacle during Inti Raymi, the festival of the sun, held at the winter solstice in June. This was the most important event of the year, a time of massive public gathering, ritual sacrifice, and symbolic renewal. The Sapa Inca himself would lead the ceremonies, offering chicha, the sacred corn beer, and a llama sacrifice to plead for the sun's return and strength. The entire festival was a dramatic reassertion that the Inca's divine ruler was the essential linchpin between the heavens and the earth, between the orderly passage of time and the survival of his people. To lose the calendar was to break that link, an unthinkable catastrophe that the Spanish conquest would ultimately bring about. This profound connection between ruler and cosmos was a world away from the chaotic, democratic mess of timekeeping in ancient Greece. Instead of a single imperial calendar, Greece was a dizzying patchwork of independent systems, each city-state proudly maintaining its own unique way of marking the years. Imagine the confusion for a traveler trying to arrange a meeting between Athens, Sparta, and Corinth, each operating on a different calendar month, with years beginning on entirely different dates. The Athenian calendar, the one we know best, was a classic lunisolar system, but it was governed as much by politics and religion as by astronomy. Its months were not bland numbers, but were named after major festivals that occurred within them, turning the year into a rhythmic sequence of civic and religious events. The year began in high summer with Hekatombeon, named for the hecatomb, the sacrifice of 100 oxen during the Panathenaic festival. This was followed by months like Bodromion, which held the Bodromia festival honoring Apollo, and Paimption, named for a bean cooking ritual. Each month was supposed to begin with the sighting of the new moon, but here is where the human element took over. A council of magistrates, the archons, had the authority to declare the start of a new month. If clouds obscured the moon, or if political or religious needs demanded it, they could simply proclaim the month had begun, or even insert an extra day. This made the calendar wonderfully flexible for scheduling festivals, but notoriously unreliable for anything requiring long-term planning. To keep this lunar calendar roughly aligned with the solar seasons for agriculture, an extra month, Amen Intercalaris, was inserted every few years. But this too was done irregularly by decree, leading to a situation where Athens and its neighbors could drift weeks or even months apart. Amidst this beautiful chaos, however, a moment of pure mathematical clarity emerged. In the year 432 before Common Era, an Athenian astronomer named Meton made a groundbreaking public proposal. He announced the discovery of a cycle that could bring order to the celestial mismatch. He observed that 19 solar years are almost exactly equal to 235 lunar months. This 19-year period, which became known as the Metonic cycle, meant that after this span, the phases of the moon would recur on the same solar dates. It was a master key for synchronizing the sun and moon. Meton even erected a public parapegma, a stone tablet with movable pegs to track this cycle and the rising of important stars. While the Athenian state largely ignored his reform for its own political calendar, the intellectual leap was monumental. The Metonic cycle became a cornerstone of later astronomical science, eventually forming the basis for the calculation of Easter in the Christian calendar and finding a place within the complex machinery of the Hebrew calendar. It stands as a powerful testament to the human desire to find elegant, predictable patterns within the apparent disorder of the heavens, even when the city-states preferred to keep time by their own rules. The elegant mathematics of Meton's cycle would have seemed like a foreign language in the early Roman Republic, where timekeeping was not a science but a blunt instrument of state control. Before the famous Julian reform, Rome operated under a calendar of such profound dysfunction it bordered on the absurd. It began as a simple agricultural cycle of just 10 months, totaling a mere 304 days. The year started in March, named for the god Mars, perfectly aligning with the military campaigning season and spring planting. It ran through December, whose name literally means the 10th month. And then it simply stopped. The roughly 60-day period of deep winter that followed December was a nameless, unmeasured gap, a chronological void where no official business was conducted because to the practical Roman mind, nothing of importance happened. Time itself was deemed to be on hold. This glaring oversight was eventually corrected. Legend says by King Numa Pompilius around 700 before Common Era, with the addition of January, named for the two-faced god Janus who looked backward and forward, and February, a month of purification. Even with these additions, the Republican calendar remained a lunisolar mess of 355 days, still short of the true solar year. The responsibility for fixing this annual drift fell to a small committee of high priests, the pontiffs. They had the sole authority to insert an intercalary month, called Mercedonius, every 2 years to realign the calendar. This power, concentrated in the hands of a few political elites, became a potent tool for corruption. The pontiffs, who were often senators and generals, could shorten or lengthen a year based on purely political need. If a rival was in a powerful political office, a pontiff friendly to him could extend his term by adding an extra month. Conversely, they could shorten the term of an enemy. They could delay elections or speed them up, manipulate the dates of tax collections, and control the timing of military commands. The calendar ceased to be a measure of celestial reality and became a ledger for political favors. Its intercalations announced with little public notice, sowing confusion in markets and courts alike. By the time Julius Caesar returned to Rome from his campaigns in Egypt in the mid-1st century before Common Era, this system had decayed into farce. Through decades of neglect and manipulation, the civic calendar had drifted a staggering 3 months out of sync with the actual seasons. The spring festival was falling in the heart of winter. Caesar, now dictator, recognized that this chaos was untenable for administering a vast, growing empire. He needed predictable dates for tax cycles, consistent terms for officials, and reliable planting seasons to feed the legions. The stage was set not just for a reform, but for a complete and total conquest of time itself. Julius Caesar found the Roman calendar in a state of utter disarray, a political toy 3 months out of step with reality. To rule an empire, he first had to conquer time itself. His solution was a clean, authoritarian sweep of the old system. He summoned the Alexandrian astronomer Sosigenes, whose work was rooted in the stable Egyptian solar calendar, and together they designed a new temporal order. The reform, implemented in 45 before Common Era, was radical in its simplicity. Sosigenes calculated the solar year to be 365 1/4 days long. The new Julian calendar would therefore have 365 days in a standard year, with a single leap day added every 4 years to account for that accumulating quarter. This created the Julian year of 365.25 days, a model of mathematical elegance compared to the chaotic pontifical tinkering. To reset the broken clock, Caesar declared that the year 46 before Common Era would be the longest year in history, lasting 445 days. Romans called it the Year of Confusion, but it was a necessary chaos to bring civic time back into alignment with the sun. As a final, personal stamp on this new eternity, the Roman Senate renamed the month Quintilis, the 5th month, to Julius, our July, in his honor. The calendar was no longer a tool for political games. It was a fixed framework for imperial administration, dictating tax dates, military campaigns, and trade cycles from Britain to Syria with unwavering consistency. Its legacy was so profound that it outlasted the empire that created it. The Julian calendar became the standard across Christendom, guiding Europe for over 16 centuries. Even today, its echo persists. The Eastern Orthodox Church, known as the Old Calendarists, still uses the Julian calendar to calculate liturgical feasts like Christmas, which is why they celebrate on January 7th by our modern reckoning. But Sosigenes' calculation, while brilliant, contained a tiny, almost imperceptible flaw. The true solar year is not 365.25 days exactly, but about 365.2422 days. That difference of just under 11 minutes per year seems trivial, yet over centuries those minutes compound into days. By the late 16th century, the Julian calendar had drifted a full 10 days ahead of the solar seasons. The spring equinox, crucial for calculating the date of Easter, was slipping further into March. The cosmic clock, so meticulously set by Caesar, was slowly but surely running fast. This tiny, accumulating error of 11 minutes a year was a problem only for a civilization thinking in terms of millennia. The man who finally solved it was a pope, armed not with legions, but with a commission of astronomers and a decree from God. Pope Gregory XIII inherited a church whose most important holiday was drifting off its celestial moorings. The Council of Nicaea in 325 had established that Easter must fall on the Sunday following the first full moon after the spring equinox. By 1582, the Julian calendar's drift meant the equinox was occurring around March 11th, not the traditional 21st. This was theologically unacceptable, a sign that the Church's calendar was out of sync with God's own creation. Gregory's reform, implemented in 1582, was surgical. First, to reset the clock, 10 days were simply erased. People went to bed on Thursday, October 4th, and woke up on Friday, October 15th. Second, to prevent future drift, a new rule for leap years was established. A year divisible by 4 would be a leap year, unless it was a century year not divisible by 400. So the year 1600 was a leap year, but 1700, 1800, and 1900 were not. This Gregorian rule brought the average year to 365.2425 days, achingly close to the true solar year. The new calendar spread slowly, a testament to how deeply time is tied to identity and power. Catholic nations like Spain, Portugal, and France adopted it immediately. Protestant and Orthodox states viewed it as a papal imposition and resisted for centuries. Britain and its colonies did not switch until 1752, by which time they had to skip 11 days, causing riots by people who believed the government had stolen days of their lives. Russia held onto the Julian calendar until 1918, after the Bolshevik Revolution, which is why the October Revolution is commemorated in November. This single reform, born from a need to fix Easter, created the global standard we use today, a final, fragile consensus on how to count our days. Yet long before popes and emperors standardized time, other cultures had etched their own complex cycles into metal, leaving behind fragments of a lost cosmic logic. 83 shattered bronze fragments were unearthed in 1897 near Coligny, France. Pieced together, they revealed a massive tablet, a 5-foot-tall lunar calendar inscribed in the Gaulish language using Roman letters. This is the Coligny calendar, the most significant surviving artifact of Celtic timekeeping, a window into the mind of the Druids. It is not a simple list of days, but a complex lunisolar calculator, organizing time into a grand cycle of 5 years, each containing 62 lunar months. The structure is mesmerizing in its intricacy. The calendar is laid out in 16 columns, each representing a single lunar month, alternating between 30 and 29 days to mirror the moon's phases. But the Celts did not see these months as mere numbers. Each month is boldly inscribed with one of two powerful words, mat or annum. Amati signifies a good, lucky, or auspicious month. A&M marks a month that is not good, unlucky, or inauspicious. This binary classification turned the flow of time into a rhythmic pulse of fortune and caution, directly guiding social, religious, and agricultural life. A community would know whether a particular lunar period was fit for launching a raid, forging an alliance, or conducting a marriage, simply by consulting this public bronze guide. The most intense scholarly debate swirls around a single critical feature, the notation of a 30-day month as Amati and a 29-day month as A&M. Some argue this proves the Celts viewed the full 30-day lunar cycle as inherently fortunate and the shorter, deficient 29-day cycle as unfortunate. Others propose a more nuanced view that Amati and A&M referred not to the month's length, but to the spiritual quality of the entire period, perhaps based on the festivals contained within it. This debate touches the heart of Celtic cosmology. Were they tracking pure astronomical observation, or were they imposing a spiritual interpretation onto the moon's imperfect symmetry? The calendar's ultimate purpose was almost certainly to regulate the timing of the great seasonal festivals that structured the Celtic year. It allowed the Druidic elite to predict precisely when these pivotal moments would occur. The most famous Samhain, celebrated around the start of our November, marked the end of the harvest and the beginning of the dark half of the year. The Coligny calendar likely pinpointed it as the culmination of a specific lunar cycle. This was not just a party, it was a moment of profound thinness between worlds, when the dead were thought to walk and the future could be divined. The calendar was the tool that told the Druids when to light the communal fires, when to make offerings to the ancestors, and when the veil was at its most permeable. In this way, the bronze tablet was more than a farmer's almanac. It was a map of sacred time, a schedule for maintaining the balance between the human community and the spirit world. Its Amati and Enum notations serving as a direct code from the cosmos on how to navigate the year's hidden dangers and blessings. The bronze codes of the Coligny calendar reveal a world where time was a sacred rhythm of fortune and caution. But to maintain a living religious tradition across millennia and diaspora, you need a calendar of even more rigorous and resilient structure. This is the achievement of the Hebrew calendar, a lunisolar system of such intricate mathematical and legal precision that it has kept Jewish holy days perfectly synchronized with both the moon and the seasons for over 2,000 years, without a single central authority to declare the new moon. At its heart is a beautiful tension between ancient observation and calculated rule. In the earliest days, the new month, Rosh Chodesh, was declared not by a calculation, but by the physical testimony of witnesses in Jerusalem. People would scan the western sky at dusk for the first sliver of the new lunar crescent. If two reliable witnesses saw it and reported to the High Court, the Sanhedrin, they would officially sanctify the new month, sending out messengers with torches and later carrier pigeons to spread the news to distant communities. This practice imbued time with a sense of community and immediacy, a monthly renewal literally witnessed by human eyes. But after the destruction of the Second Temple and the dispersion of the Jewish people, this became impossible. To preserve unity, the sage Hillel II in the 4th century formalized a calculated calendar based on astronomical principles that could be used by any community, anywhere. This fixed calendar is a masterpiece of lunisolar engineering. Its core mechanism is the 19-year Metonic cycle, which you might recall from ancient Greece. The Hebrew calendar adopts this cycle to perfectly reconcile lunar months with solar years. 7 times within each 19-year period, an entire extra month, a second Adar or Adar Roman II, is added. This ensures that Passover, a spring festival tied to the barley harvest, always falls in the month of Aviv, the spring. Without this leap month, Passover would slowly drift through the seasons, just as the Islamic holy month of Ramadan does today. Yet the complexity deepens with the rules for the new year itself, Rosh Hashanah. The first of Tishrei is not set by a simple astronomical formula. It is shaped by a set of 4 postponement rules known as the Dechiyot. These are legal and practical adjustments that prevent Rosh Hashanah, and by extension Yom Kippur and other holidays, from falling on certain days of the week. For example, if the calculated moment of the new moon, called the Molad, falls on a Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday, Rosh Hashanah is postponed by 1 day. Why? To prevent Yom Kippur, a day of complete fasting and rest, from falling on a Friday or Sunday, which would create an impossible back-to-back sequence of 2 days when work is forbidden, complicating food preparation and other necessities. Another rule ensures the year has a proper length, preventing it from being too short or too long in a way that would disrupt the cycle of weekly Torah readings. The result is a calendar that feels divinely orchestrated, where holy days consistently avoid practical conflicts, a system where celestial mechanics are filtered through the lens of human spiritual need. This intricate dance dictates the timing of every major holiday. The 15th of Nisan is always the first night of Passover, the 10th of Tishrei is always Yom Kippur, and the festival of Shavuot always follows a precise count of 49 days from the second night of Passover. It is a portable homeland in time, allowing a global community to mark the same sacred moments, governed by a set of calculations that turn the wandering of the moon into a fixed map of devotion. The Hebrew calendar's intricate dance between sun and moon creates a stable, repeating rhythm of holy days. But what happens when a calendar chooses to follow only one of those celestial bodies, completely untethering itself from the seasons? This is the defining characteristic of the Islamic calendar, also known as the Hijri calendar, a purely lunar system that creates a spiritual rhythm all its own. Its 12 months are strictly tied to the moon's cycle, each beginning with the confirmed sighting of the new crescent in the evening sky. Since a lunar month averages about 29.5 days, a full Hijri year lasts approximately 354 days. This is about 11 days shorter than the solar year. The consequence is profound and beautiful. The entire calendar slowly drifts backward through the solar seasons, completing a full cycle through the Gregorian calendar roughly every 33 years. This means the sacred months are not fixed to any earthly season. They are travelers through time. The calendar's starting point, its epoch, is not an astronomical event, but a pivotal moment in human history, the Hijra. This was the migration of the Prophet Muhammad and his followers from Mecca to Medina in the year 622 of the Common Era. This journey marked the founding of the first Muslim community, and year 1 of the Hijri calendar begins from that July. The months themselves have evocative names like Muharram, Safar, and the holy month of Ramadan, determining the precise start of each month, especially Ramadan and the subsequent festival of Eid al-Fitr, is a matter of both deep tradition and modern debate. The classical method, still followed in many regions, is the physical sighting of the crescent moon with the naked eye. On the 29th day of Shaban, the month before Ramadan, Muslims across the world look to the western horizon after sunset. If the slim crescent is seen by reliable witnesses, Ramadan begins the following dawn. If not, the month completes its 30th day and Ramadan starts the day after. This practice connects the community directly to the cosmos, making timekeeping a participatory, witnessed act. In our globalized age, however, astronomical calculations can predict the new moon's visibility with extreme accuracy. This has led to different communities sometimes beginning Ramadan on different days, some following local sightings, others relying on pre-calculated tables or the declaration from a central authority like Saudi Arabia. This very debate highlights the calendar's living nature, balancing celestial observation with the unity of the faithful. The seasonal drift creates a unique spiritual experience. Ramadan, the month of fasting from dawn to dusk, rotates through all the seasons. When it falls in winter, the fast is observed during shorter, cooler days. When it migrates to the height of summer, the fast encompasses long, hot hours of daylight, a test of endurance that changes in character every year. The same is true for Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, which occurs during the month of Dhu al-Hijjah. Pilgrims might experience the rituals in scorching desert heat one year and in milder conditions years later. This disconnect from the agricultural cycle serves a profound purpose. It emphasizes that these acts of worship are for God alone, independent of earthly cycles of harvest and weather. The Islamic calendar creates a rhythm purely of faith, a lunar heartbeat that reminds believers that their sacred time operates on a different plane, constantly moving, reminding them that their devotion is not bound to the turning of the earth around the sun, but to a more ancient silver light in the darkness. The lunar rhythm of the Islamic calendar is a spiritual journey independent of the seasons. Yet within the same cultural sphere, a different group of astronomers sought the opposite, a solar calendar of such mathematical perfection it would stand the test of millennia. This is the Jalali calendar, crafted under the Seljuk Empire by a panel of scholars led by the legendary poet and mathematician Omar Khayyam. Commissioned by Sultan Jalal al-Din Malik Shah in the year 1079, its goal was breathtakingly ambitious: to create a solar calendar more accurate than any that had come before. one that would stay in perfect sync with the astronomical seasons forever. And against all odds, they succeeded. The Jalali calendar is a masterpiece of computational astronomy. It fixed the solar year's length with astonishing precision, determining it to be 365 days, 5 hours, 49 minutes, and a handful of seconds, a figure remarkably close to the modern measurement. To handle this awkward fraction of a day, Khayyam and his team devised a leap year system of elegant complexity, the 33-year cycle. Within this cycle, they would insert 8 leap days, but not at regular 4-year intervals. The pattern of which years received the extra day was based on a specific, optimized astronomical formula. This system produces an average year length that is even more accurate than the Gregorian calendar we use today, drifting by only 1 day every 3,500 years, compared to the Gregorians' 1 day drift every 3,200 years. It is, quite simply, one of the most precise solar calendars ever designed by humans. The calendar's epoch, its starting point in time, is the Hejra, the same migration that begins the Islamic lunar calendar. But the Jalali marks it in solar years, creating a parallel count of time. This brilliant system did not fade into history. It became the official civil calendar of Iran and Afghanistan, where it is still in use today, known as the solar Hijri calendar. Its months carry the beautiful, ancient names of Zoroastrian tradition, like Farvardin, Ordibhesht, and Khordad, each tied to a divine concept or angelic being. The new year, Nowruz, is celebrated at the precise moment of the vernal equinox, a moment that can fall on different Gregorian dates, sometimes March 20th, sometimes the 21st. When that exact second arrives, as calculated by astronomers in Tehran, the new year begins. This means the calendar is not just mathematically precise, it is observationally alive, reset each spring by the sun's own passage. The Jalali calendar represents a fusion of intellect and tradition, where Persian astronomical genius met ancient Zoroastrian reverence for the sun as a symbol of truth and cosmic order. Its influence rippled outward, providing a model of solar accuracy that impressed scholars across the medieval world. It stands as a quiet, persistent testament to the idea that human reason, when applied to the heavens, could create a measure of time so perfect it would outlast empires. While the Jalali calendar perfected solar time, another ancient system chose to walk a different path entirely, preserving a rhythm from the age of the pharaohs. The Ethiopian calendar is a living relic, a time machine that places the country roughly 7 to 8 years behind the rest of the world. This is not a mistake or a delay, but the result of clinging to an older calculation of the birth of Christ and to a structure so ancient it echoes in the stone of Alexandria. Its lineage flows directly from the Coptic calendar used by the Egyptian Orthodox Church, which itself is a direct descendant of the ancient Egyptian civil calendar. You can see the family resemblance immediately. Like its ancestor, the Ethiopian calendar is a solar system divided into 12 months of exactly 30 days each. But then it adds a 13th. This short, special period is the epigomenal month called Pagium, which lasts for 5 days or 6 in a leap year. These are days set apart for celebration, reflection, and festive gatherings, considered outside the ordinary flow of the year. This 13-month structure gives Ethiopia a unique rhythm, one where advertising slogans famously invite you to enjoy 13 months of sunshine. The calendar's epoch, its year one, begins in what we call 7 before Common Era, based on a different interpretation of biblical chronology concerning the Annunciation. This is why, as you cross the border into Ethiopia, the year suddenly rewinds. While it is 2024 in much of the world, in Ethiopia it is currently 2016. The months have beautiful, poetic names in the Ge'ez language, like Meskrem, Tikimt, and Hidar. The new year, known as Inkutatash, arrives not in January but on Meskrem 1, which corresponds to September 11th on the Gregorian calendar or September 12th in a Gregorian leap year. Enkutatash means the gift of jewels, hearkening back to the legendary visit of the Queen of Sheba to King Solomon. It coincides with the end of the long, rainy season, when the highlands erupt in a blanket of bright yellow daisies. The celebration is a vibrant mix of the religious and the seasonal. Families attend church services, children sing songs and exchange painted pictures, and the air fills with the smell of freshly brewed coffee and the sound of shared meals. This calendar is not a quaint tradition kept for tourists. It is woven into the fabric of national life. It governs the schedule of religious festivals, the timing of agricultural cycles, and even official government documents. To live in Ethiopia is to inhabit two parallel streams of time, negotiating between the global Gregorian standard and this deeply rooted, ancient count that connects the present to the wisdom of Alexandria and the timeless cycle of the African sun. The sun's fixed path in Ethiopia is a constant, but the Buddhist world embraces a more fluid, adaptive rhythm of time. Across the Theravada Buddhist nations, from Thailand and Myanmar to Laos and Cambodia, a shared lunisolar calendar weaves the fabric of monastic and spiritual life. This is not a single, monolithic system, but a family of calendars with a common ancestry and purpose, all counting years from the most profound moment in Buddhist history, the parinirvana, the final passing away of the Buddha. This epoch places the current year, as of 2024, in the 2660s, a timescale that immediately situates daily life within a vast spiritual narrative. The mechanics are a delicate dance with the moon. Months are lunar, beginning with the new moon, but since 12 lunar months fall short of the solar year, an extra day is added to certain months, and roughly every 2 or 3 years, an entire intercalary month is inserted. This adjustment, decided by astrological calculation, ensures that the lunar months remain anchored to the seasons, so that important festivals always arrive at their appropriate time of year. The calendar's primary function is to mark the Uposatha days, the observance days that fall on the new moon, full moon, and the 2 half moons in between. These are days of intensified practice for the monastic community and devout laypeople, a time for renewing vows, listening to teachings, and practicing meditation. The most sacred of these is the full moon day, and among all full moons, one shines brightest, Vesak. This festival, which falls on the full moon of the 6th lunar month, typically in May, commemorates the birth, enlightenment, and parinirvana of the Buddha all at once. It is a night of profound reverence where temples are encircled with candlelit processions and the air hums with chanting. Yet in countries like Thailand, this ancient lunar calendar exists in a fascinating dual system with a separate solar calendar, the Thai solar calendar, which is used for all official civil and commercial purposes. This solar calendar, introduced in the late 19th century, also uses the Buddhist era but is fixed to the sun, creating a parallel count of days. So a Thai citizen might plan a business meeting using the solar date, while consulting the lunar calendar to determine the most auspicious day for a house blessing or to know when to bring offerings to the local temple for the next Uposatha. This coexistence is not a conflict but a harmonious division of labor, where the sun governs the affairs of the state and the market, while the moon guides the rhythm of the heart and the spirit. The moon's guidance of Buddhist festivals connects to a much older administrative rhythm, one that beat at the heart of a vast Iron Age empire. The Assyrian calendar was the bureaucratic pulse of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, a lunisolar system so effective it became a template for its successors. For the Assyrians, timekeeping was not merely spiritual, it was a critical tool of imperial control, synchronizing the collection of tribute, the movement of armies, and the edicts of the king from the Tigris River to the Nile. Their year began not in winter's depth, but with the renewal of spring in the month of Nisan, aligning the civic cycle with the rebirth of the land and the start of the military campaigning season. This spring new year was a powerful statement, framing the empire's annual activities within a narrative of growth and conquest. Its structure followed the familiar lunisolar pattern, with months beginning at the first sighting of the crescent moon. To keep this lunar count in step with the solar year, an extra month was intercalated by royal decree when the astrologer priests observed the need. But the lasting legacy of this calendar is etched in the names of its months, many of which were directly adopted into the Hebrew calendar centuries later. Months like Tishrei, the time of the autumn festivals, Shevat, and the pivotal Nisan itself all have their roots in Assyrian timekeeping. This was no accident. It represents a profound cultural transmission, where the administrative framework of a dominant empire was absorbed and sanctified by a subject people, repurposed to mark their own sacred history. Within the empire, this calendar was the ultimate organizing principle. It created a universal timeline for imperial administration. Provincial governors knew precisely when their annual tribute of grain, gold, and livestock was due to the capital at Nineveh. Royal decrees and legal documents were dated according to this standard, allowing for consistent record-keeping across diverse lands from Babylon to Israel. The calendar turned the chaotic flow of time into a regulated grid, enabling the Assyrian king to project his power across vast distances with bureaucratic precision. It standardized the schedule for religious ceremonies honoring the national god Ashur, ensuring that imperial piety was performed in unison. In essence, the Assyrian calendar was the operating system for one of history's first true mega-states, proving that to rule space, you must first master time. The rigid administrative grid of Assyria stands in stark contrast to a calendar designed to reveal the hidden patterns of an individual's destiny. In the lush valleys of Oaxaca, Mexico, the Zapotec civilization developed a timekeeping system that was profoundly personal, a cosmic mirror held up to every soul. At the heart of their worldview was the Pi, a 260-day sacred cycle that functioned as a spiritual fingerprint. Just like the Maya Tzolk'in to the east, the Pi wove together 20 distinct day signs with the numbers 1 through 13. Each sign was a powerful symbol, an emblem like earthquake, deer, or motion, each carrying its own unique force and meaning. When a child was born, the day sign and number of their birth date within the Pi were not just a date, they were a divine blueprint. This combination was believed to shape their personality, their potential, and their fate for the rest of their life. A priest or kopa would interpret this celestial code to give the child a name and to foresee the challenges and blessings that lay ahead. This calendar was a guide for living, consulted before any major undertaking to find the most auspicious moment, turning everyday decisions into a dialogue with the cosmos. Running in parallel was the Izza, the 365-day solar calendar that tracked the agricultural year and the passage of seasons. This solar count was divided into 18 months of 20 days each, with a final, brief period of 5 days considered empty and unlucky. The true power of the Zapotec system emerged from the interaction of these two cycles. The Pi and the Izza spun together like two immense interlocking gears. A specific date required a designation from both the sacred and solar counts. It took a full 52 solar years for every possible combination of a Pi day and an Izza position to occur and then finally repeat. This period, the calendar round, was the grand pulse of Zapotec society. Its completion was a time of immense ceremony and renewal, a moment to ensure the cosmic order remained intact and the world would continue for another 52-year span. We can still glimpse the artistry of this system today, carved in stone and painted on rare manuscripts. Zapotec glyphs, etched into the monuments at sites like Monte Albon, often include these calendar dates, anchoring the deeds of rulers and the dedication of temples to a specific, spiritually charged moment in the dual cycles. While only a few fragments of Zapotec screenfold books or codices survive the Spanish conquest, they hint at the elaborate almanacs that once existed. These books would have allowed the Copa priests to track the complex interplay of cycles, to forecast the influence of days far into the future, and to maintain their vital role as the interpreters of time's hidden language. For the Zapotec, a calendar was not a tool for managing an empire, but for navigating a life, a daily map of fortune written in the stars. The personal destiny of the Zapotec calendar feels worlds away from the stark, seasonal heartbeat of the north. In the lands of the Vikings, time was not a complex wheel of fortune, but a simple, brutal division between survival and life. The Old Norse calendar, painstakingly reconstructed from saga verses and cryptic runestones, reflected a world defined by light and dark, by the sailing season and the frozen silence. Its fundamental structure was a binary split of the year into just two halves, summer and winter. Summer, known as Suma, began roughly in mid-April, a time of planting, raiding, and travel across open seas. Winter, or Veta, commenced around mid-October when the seas grew treacherous, the fields lay fallow, and life retreated to the longhouse fire. This was not a poetic metaphor, it was the essential rhythm of existence. The calendar itself was lunisolar, with months tied to the moon's phases but constantly corrected to keep this summer-winter cycle aligned with the sun. 12 lunar months with evocative names like Muisca, the fat-sucking month, and Solmanu, the sun month, fell short of the solar year. To fix this drift, an extra summer month was added periodically, a leap month called Thori. Its insertion was a critical piece of communal knowledge, decided by law speakers observing the sun's progress, ensuring that the vital summer festivals always arrived as the world thawed. The Norse measured longer spans in a unique unit called the miseri, which simply meant a year, but conceptually it was this complete cycle from one summer to the next, a full turn of their two-season world. The calendar's purpose was etched into its very festivals. The most important was Yule, or Jol, a multi-day feast held at the midwinter solstice, the deepest point of the dark half. This was a time of profound communal gathering, a defiance of the cold and darkness. Legends say the god Odin, the wild hunter, rode across the sky during this time, and families would gather to make oaths over a sacred boar, drink hearty ale, and light great fires to beckon the sun's return. The opposite pole of the year was Sigablot, the victory sacrifice, held at the start of the summer half. This was a time to honor Odin again, but now as a god of battle and kings, to bless raids and expeditions with success. Animals were sacrificed, their blood sprinkled on altars and participants, and the community feasted, storing strength and courage for the voyages ahead. This entire system, so intimately tied to the land and the old gods, could not survive the coming of a new spiritual order. As Christianity took root across Scandinavia, the old calendar was systematically replaced. Church authorities cleverly grafted Christian holidays onto the existing pagan festivals, placing Christmas atop Yule and Easter near the spring celebrations. The old month names and the binary summer-winter division slowly faded from official use, absorbed into the Julian calendar framework. Yet, like a rune carved deep into an old oak, its echoes never fully vanished. Our modern tradition of the Yule log, the 12 days of Christmas, and even the timing of our midwinter celebrations are faint, living memories of a time when the year was not 12 months long, but two great seasons, light and dark, governed by the sea and the sky. The stark rhythm of the Viking year, defined by light and dark, finds a curious echo in a calendar that chose to let go of the sun entirely. The Armenian calendar is a monument in time, a fixed and unchanging system that has drifted gracefully away from the seasons for over a millennium, preserved as a vessel of national and religious identity. Established in the year 552 of the Common Era, its epoch marks a pivotal moment not of a king's coronation or a mythical creation, but of the Armenian Church's formal declaration of independence from the broader Christian world. This calendar was from the very start a statement of self-determination, a way to mark sacred time on their own terms. Its structure is one of elegant, stubborn simplicity. It is a purely solar calendar of exactly 365 days, divided into 12 months of 30 days each. followed by a single additional period of 5 epagonal days. This design, reminiscent of the ancient Egyptian civil calendar, has one defining feature: it contains no leap year. There is no mechanism, no extra day added every 4 years to correct for the fact that a true solar year is about 1/4 of a day longer. This was a deliberate choice. The Armenian calendar is fixed, a perfect, unvarying cycle of 365 days. The consequence is a slow, relentless drift against the astronomical seasons. Every 4 years, it falls about 1 day behind the tropical solar year. Over a single lifetime, the calendar slips nearly a full season. Over centuries, it has wandered completely, so that a month named for the midsummer sun might now arrive in the depths of winter. This drift is not an error, it is the calendar's very nature, a testament to its role as a keeper of liturgical rhythm rather than agricultural timing. The months themselves bear beautiful, poetic names that speak to the Armenian soul and landscape. The year begins with Navasad, an ancient month of celebration and harvest feasts dedicated to ancestral deities. It continues with months like Tree, meaning tender, young, likely referring to new plant growth, and Ahekan, meaning of the fire, perhaps linked to the hearth and home in the cold months. Others, like Mary, meaning of the mothers, and Margats, meaning of the meadows, root the passage of time directly in the cycles of family and the earth. Today, the Armenian calendar is not used for civil affairs. Those are managed by the Gregorian calendar, but it remains vibrantly alive within the Armenian Apostolic Church. It is the official calendar of the Church, determining the dates of movable feasts and the commemoration of saints. For Armenians worldwide, it serves as a living link to an ancient past, a unique chronological thread that has never been broken, even as it floats freely across the solar year. To consult it is to step into a parallel stream of time, one that measures not the orbit of the Earth, but the enduring pulse of a people. While Armenia preserved a calendar that drifted from the seasons, another island nation engineered its time to mirror the subtle breath of the natural world. The traditional Japanese calendar, or koyomi, was a masterpiece of imported Chinese astronomy, refined over centuries into a system that did not just mark days, but painted them with the colors of the changing Earth. Before the Meiji government adopted the Gregorian calendar in 1873, Japan lived by this intricate lunisolar rhythm. Its months were strictly lunar, beginning with the new moon, but to keep pace with the sun, an intercalary month was inserted roughly every 2 to 3 years. This extra month was not added at the calendar's end, but could be placed anywhere it was needed, creating years with 2 third months or 2 seventh months, a fluid adjustment to maintain harmony with the seasons. Yet the true soul of this system lay in a poetic grid laid over the solar year. The Japanese adopted the 24 seki solar terms that divided the sun's path into precise 15-degree segments, each with a name that captured a moment in the agricultural cycle. These were not vague seasons, but specific points like Rishon, the beginning of spring, or Shokan, lesser cold. But they went further, subdividing each seki into 3 smaller units, creating 72 ko, or microseasons. Each of these 5-day periods was a delicate observation of nature's minute shifts. The year might begin with the first ko. East wind melts the ice, followed by bush warblers start singing in the mountains, and later, fog first descends. This turned the calendar into a lyrical almanac, connecting the passage of time directly to the blooming of a specific flower, the arrival of a certain bird, or the quality of the light. It wove time and nature into a single, inseparable tapestry, guiding farmers with exquisite precision and inspiring poets for generations. Alongside this natural poetry ran a more pragmatic cycle, the 6-day week. Unlike the 7-day week familiar to us, this system was based on the 6 visible celestial bodies: the Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus, each lending its name to a day. This rhythm permeated daily life, dictating market days and structuring the schedules of towns and cities. Its most enduring cultural remnant is the concept of rokuyo, a sequence of 6-day types that still appear on many traditional Japanese calendars today. Each day carries a label of fortune, like senbu for general good luck, tamabiki for pulling a friend, which is good except for funerals, or batsumetsu, the Buddha's death, considered the most inauspicious day of all. While most modern Japanese pay little heed, these labels still influence the scheduling of weddings, which are almost never held on batsumetsu, and the opening of new businesses. This dual nature, the profound poetic observation of the 72 ko alongside the practical superstition of the rokuyo, shows a calendar that served both the soul and the society, listening to the whisper of the wind while organizing the bustle of the street. Deep in the pagan heart of the First Bulgarian Empire, time was marked by the growl of a wolf and the path of the moon. The Bulgar calendar, a system carried from the Central Asian steppes, wove together celestial observation and a powerful animal symbolism to structure the life of a rising kingdom. This was a lunisolar calendar, its months following the silver phases of the moon, but its years were governed by a cycle that gave each one a fierce, defining spirit. Unlike the intricate 60-year cycle of the Chinese, the Bulgar system ran on a 12-year animal cycle, but its cast of creatures was distinctly its own. The sequence began not with a rat, but with vermin, followed by the ox, wolf, hare, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, hen, dog, and boar. Each animal imbued its year with specific characteristics, influencing everything from the perceived fortune of a military campaign to the expected temperament of a child born under its sign. A year of the wolf might be seen as a time for strength and cunning in battle, while a year of the sheep could counsel caution and consolidation. This cycle was not merely folk tradition, it was embedded in the highest levels of statecraft. We see its formal use etched in stone in the nominalia of the Bulgarian Khans, a crucial historical inscription listing the early pagan rulers. The nominalia does not just give the names of the Khans, it records the precise animal year in which each one died and the length of their reign, measured in these symbolic cycles. This tells us the calendar was the official chronological framework of the empire, the way the Bulgar elite marked history itself, tying the destiny of their leaders directly to the rhythm of the animal world. Beyond administration, this system was rooted in a rich pagan mythology. Each animal was likely linked to a totemic spirit or deity within the Bulgar pantheon, a complex cosmology that viewed the natural world as a direct expression of divine power. The calendar thus served as a sacred map, aligning human endeavors with these spiritual forces. Choosing to crown a new Khan, sign a treaty, or plant crops in a specific animal year was an act of religious significance, an attempt to harness the favor of the cosmos. This entire worldview, however, was destined for a profound collision. In the 9th century, under Khan Boris I, Bulgaria underwent a monumental transformation, converting to Orthodox Christianity. The adoption of the new faith and the Cyrillic script brought with it the Julian calendar and a Christian reckoning of time. The old animal cycle, so intimately tied to pagan belief, faded from official use, suppressed as a relic of a heathen past. Yet, like many ancient timekeeping systems, its spirit did not vanish completely. Elements of this zodiac, particularly the animals themselves, are believed to have seeped into Bulgarian folklore and superstition, lingering in proverbs and folk tales for generations, a whispered, animalistic heartbeat beneath the surface of a Christian state. High in the Andes of modern Colombia, the Muisca Confederation measured time with the same precision they applied to their legendary gold. Their calendar was a complex lunisolar engine, a testament to a society often overshadowed by the Aztec and Maya, yet one that achieved a remarkable harmony between celestial observation and earthly ritual. For the Muisca, time was a sacred resource, as malleable and valuable as the metal they revered, and their system was designed to work it with flawless accuracy. They divided their solar year, known as a zokam, into 20-day months, a structure that echoed across Mesoamerica but was uniquely their own. Each month was further split into 4 5-day weeks, creating a rhythm that pulsed through markets and fields. Yet the moon presented its familiar challenge. 12 of these lunar months fell short of the solar year. The Muisca solution was a cycle of breathtaking scale, a 37-year period during which they would intercalate or insert an entire 13 lunar months. This grand cycle, a masterpiece of long-term calculation, kept their lunar festivals perfectly locked to the solar seasons across generations, a synchronization achieved without written records, passed down through an oral tradition of priestly astronomers called sageques. This celestial machinery was powered by a divine duo. The sun god Sai was the ultimate source of light, order, and masculine energy. His journey across the sky dictated the agricultural calendar, the planting of maize and potatoes in the fertile highland basins. His counterpart was the moon goddess Chia, who governed the waters, fertility, and the feminine principle. Her silvery light measured the shorter cycles, the months and the tides of human and crop fertility. The calendar was the meeting point of their influences, a schedule for when to honor which deity to ensure balance in the world. This was not abstract theology, it was practical cosmology. The calendar dictated the Mercado days, the bustling markets where communities gathered to trade salt, emeralds, cotton, and the brilliant gold for which they were famed. It scheduled the elaborate religious ceremonies that were the heartbeat of Muisca spiritual life, many of which centered on their most sacred lakes. No site was more central to this temporal and sacred order than Lake Guatavita, the circular, high-altitude lagoon that inspired the legend of El Dorado. During the installation of a new Zipa, or ruler, a ceremony of breathtaking symbolism would unfold, timed to a specific convergence in the calendar. The new leader, covered entirely in powdered gold, would journey on a ceremonial raft to the lake's center. As offerings of gold and emeralds were cast into the waters to honor Chia, the ruler himself would plunge into the lake, washing the gold from his body as an offering to Sai. This act of renewal, of literally gifting time in the form of precious metal to the gods, was the ultimate expression of the Muisca worldview. Their calendar did not just tell them when to plant or trade, it told them when to perform the rituals that literally sustain the universe, ensuring the sun would rise, the rains would come, and their golden civilization would endure. When Spanish conquistadors finally reached these highlands, they saw only the gold to be looted, blind to the intricate golden calculus of days and seasons that had produced it. Gold was not the only metal the ancients used to forge their calendars. Some shaped time from the relentless heat of the sun itself. The Tamil calendar, or Tamil Panchangam, is a pure solar system, a river of days flowing from the sun's precise journey through the constellations. Its 12 months are not arbitrary. Each one begins at the exact moment the sun enters a new zodiac sign in the sidereal system, the same fixed star backdrop used in Hindu astronomy. This creates months with names like Chitharai, Vaikasi, and Adi, each carrying the distinct seasonal character of South India, from the blossoming heat of early summer to the nurturing rains of the monsoon. But the true scale of this calendar is measured in a grander unit, the Samvatsara, a 60-year cycle. Each year within this cycle bears a unique name, and it takes 6 full decades for the sequence to repeat, providing a framework for recording history, planning long-term projects, and understanding one's place in a vast, repeating wheel of time. This system is no recent invention. Its roots plunge deep into the Sangam era, the classical golden age of Tamil literature 2,000 years ago. Poets from that time made reference to seasons and constellations that align perfectly with this solar framework, proving its antiquity and its role in shaping a sophisticated literary culture. Today, this ancient rhythm still sets the beat for modern life across Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka. It determines the date of Pathandu, the Tamil New Year, which marks the sun's entry into the sign of Aries, usually around April 14. This is a day of joyous celebration where homes are adorned with colorful column designs, families share feasts, and the air is filled with the hope of new beginnings. The calendar also dictates the timing of Pongal, the magnificent harvest festival that gives thanks to the sun, the earth, and cattle for a bountiful yield. For 4 days, the scent of sweet rice boiling over in clay pots, a ritual called Pongal, meaning to overflow, symbolizes prosperity and gratitude. Beyond these public celebrations, the Tamil Panchangam is an essential daily guide for millions. Priests and astrologers consult its detailed calculations to determine the most auspicious moments, or muhurtam, for weddings, business openings, and even the start of a simple journey. It lists the positions of planets, lunar days, and astrological influences, offering a cosmic weather report for every single day. What is remarkable is its enduring independence. While sharing a common ancient source with other Indian calendars, the Tamil system has maintained its distinct solar structure and cultural identity, resisting full absorption into other models. It is a living chronicle, a testament to a civilization that looked to the sun not just for light, but for the very architecture of its days, its festivals, and its future. The sun's precise journey through the Tamil zodiac creates a rhythm of harvest and celebration. But in the mid-19th century, a new calendar was born from a vision of global unity. The Baha'i calendar is a modern creation of elegant mathematical symmetry, designed to synchronize the spiritual life of a worldwide community. Established by the faith's founder, Baha'u'llah, in the 1800s, it replaced the complex lunar calculations of its Persian birthplace with a clean, predictable solar system. Its structure is immediately striking, built not on tradition but on a deliberate, symbolic design. The year is divided into 19 months, each containing 19 days. This gives a total of 361 days, a number that leaves it just short of the solar year. To bridge this gap, the calendar inserts a special period of intercalary days, known as Ayom Ihar, which are placed between the 18th and 19th months. In a standard year, there are 4 intercalary days, and in a leap year, there are 5. This simple adjustment locks the calendar to the vernal equinox, with the Baha'i New Year, Nowruz, always falling on March 20th or 21st, the moment the sun crosses the celestial equator. The epoch, the starting point of this calendar, is deeply significant. It begins in the year 1844 of the Common Era, marking the declaration of the Bab, the prophet herald of the Baha'i faith. This grounds the system in a specific historical moment of revelation, rather than a mythical or astronomical event, but the calendar's true purpose is practical and communal. It provides the precise rhythm for the 19-day feast, the foundational gathering of Baha'i community life. On the first day of each Baha'i month, adherents in every corner of the world come together for a 3-part observance, a spiritual portion of prayer and reading, a consultative portion for discussing community affairs, and a social portion of fellowship and refreshment. This regular, predictable cycle creates a heartbeat of unity, ensuring that whether in a village in India or a city in Brazil, the community is spiritually synchronized, turning the abstract passage of days into a tangible experience of global connection. Far from any continental shore, another culture charted its existence by the silver path of the moon on the sea. The traditional Hawaiian calendar, Kolana Mahina, is a lunar almanac of breathtaking ecological intimacy. It is not a grid of numbers, but a living conversation with the natural world, where each night of the moon's cycle carries a specific name and a set of instructions for survival. The year unfolds in 12 or sometimes 13 lunar months, each one commencing with the appearance of the slender new moon called Hilo. This first sliver was not just a signal, it was a beginning, a time of cleansing and setting intentions as the world was bathed in fresh potential light. From that moment, the Hawaiians tracked not just the moon's shape, but its subtle character across approximately 30 distinct phases, each with its own poetic name and strict practical purpose. The names of these phases are a direct language of the land and sea. After Hilo, the moon waxes through phases like Hoka, the arching moon, and Ku, the standing moon. Each name is a key. The night of Old Kulua, for example, was considered poor for fishing, a time to mend nets instead. In stark contrast, the nights of Kulua and Lau Kulua, when the moon was bright and full, were prime for catching certain deep-sea fish like the oplu. On land, the phases dictated the rhythm of cultivation. The waxing moon, a time of increasing light and moisture, was for planting crops that bore fruit above ground like taro and sweet potato. The waning moon, a period of drawing in, was reserved for planting root crops or for harvesting, as it was believed to help with preservation. This was not superstition, it was observed science, generations of knowledge noting how the moon's gravitational pull affected not just the ocean tides, but the sap in plants and the behavior of animals. This entire system was governed by a divine presence, the moon goddess Hina. She was far more than a distant symbol, she was an active ancestor, a weaver of clouds and tides. In one profound chant, Hina is said to have grown weary of her earthly life and climbed a rainbow into the sky, becoming the moon to eternally watch over her descendants. Her journey explained the moon's phases, her restful periods, the dark nights. To follow Kolana Mahina was to walk in the footsteps of Hina, to live in accordance with the rhythm she set in the heavens. This knowledge was the bedrock of the most astonishing Hawaiian feat, long-distance voyaging. Navigators or hukal used the moon's phases as a crucial clock in the open ocean. The moon's position and phase helped them estimate longitude. Its brightness illuminated nighttime swells and currents, and its cycle kept a mental calendar for their voyages of thousands of miles. The calendar was their star compass made temporal. For decades after Western contact, this intricate lunar wisdom was suppressed, replaced by the Gregorian calendar and its industrial rhythm. But like the moon itself, Kolana Mahina has returned. A powerful revival movement led by cultural practitioners, educators, and fishermen is bringing the moon calendar back into daily use. Today, you can find Hawaiian language newspapers publishing the nightly moon phases, community gardens scheduling plantings by its light, and fishing families once again consulting the ancient names to know when to set their lines. This revival is more than nostalgia. It is a reclaiming of a sustainable, place-based intelligence, a way of seeing time not as something to be spent, but as a sacred circle to be lived within, guided by the eternal glow of Hina. Long before the Christian era, a different Armenian calendar measured the years, one that pulsed with the rhythm of the moon and the old gods. This was the Mihikan calendar, a system steeped in the Zoroastrian beliefs that once dominated the highlands. Its epoch reached back into myth, beginning with the legendary founding of Armenia by the patriarch Haik, a date that placed the nation's origin in a heroic prehistoric past. Unlike its later, drifting successor, the Mihikan was a living lunisolar calendar. Its months followed the moon's phases, but to keep pace with the sun and the vital agricultural seasons, priests would intercalate an extra month when needed. This flexible, observational system kept the community in harmony with both the silver night sky and the golden cycles of the harvest. The soul of this calendar was written in its month names, each one a direct invocation of a divine power from the Zoroastrian pantheon. The month of Miha, from which the calendar takes its name, was sacred to Mithra, the god of covenant, light, and the sun. Tur was dedicated to Tishtria, the divinity of the star Sirius and the life-giving rains. Another month, Ahekan, honored Vahan, a dragon-slaying god of fire and war. This was not abstract timekeeping, it was a liturgical map, turning every lunar cycle into an act of devotion to a specific aspect of the cosmos. The calendar scheduled festivals, sacrifices, and communal rites that reinforced the sacred bond between the people, their king, and the natural world. This entire cosmic order faced an existential threat in the early 4th century. When King Tiridates III converted to Christianity, the new faith sought to erase the old pagan structure's root and branch. The Muiscan calendar, as a direct schedule for the worship of rival gods, was systematically suppressed. Its official use was banned, its intercalation ceased, and the rhythmic connection to the Zoroastrian deities was severed by decree. The state adopted a new Christian framework for time, one that would eventually evolve into the fixed Armenian calendar we discussed earlier. Yet the old ways did not vanish into silence. The Muiscan calendar survived in the hidden language of folklore, in the stubborn names of the months that people continued to use in rural areas long after their original meaning was forgotten. Elements of its festivals were quietly absorbed into Christian celebrations, their pagan edges softened but their seasonal timing preserved. The memory of the god Vahan lived on in folk tales of heroic warriors, and the reverence for Miha subtly transformed into metaphors for light and truth within the new theology. This ancient Zoroastrian timepiece became a ghost in the cultural machine, a whispered layer of time beneath the official Christian count, proving that even a suppressed calendar can leave an indelible mark on the soul of a nation. The silent Moai of Easter Island gaze inland, but the true clock of their civilization may have been written on wood and stone. On that most isolated of islands, Rapa Nui, timekeeping was a desperate necessity, a way to navigate the thin line between survival and collapse. While their famous statues hold no obvious astronomical clues, other fragments hint at a complex calendar woven from celestial observation and profound ecological anxiety. The most tantalizing pieces of this puzzle are the Rongorongo tablets, wooden artifacts covered in intricate, undeciphered glyphs of birdmen, plants, and geometric forms. Some scholars, like the linguist Stephen Fisher, propose that certain sequences on these tablets are not myths but calendrical notations. They point to repetitive glyphs that could represent lunar months or tally counts of days, arranged in lines that might track the synodic cycles of Venus or the Moon. If true, these tablets would be a liturgical calendar, a sacred script for priests to chant the correct rituals at the correct celestial moment, ensuring the continuity of life on their remote rock. But the sky was also measured in stone. At the ceremonial village of Orongo, perched on the rim of the Rono Cow volcano, a solar observatory of stark power exists. Certain petroglyph-covered stones are positioned so that the rising sun on the June solstice strikes specific carved symbols, like the famed Make face, the creator god. This was not casual observation, it was a precise, built-in alarm clock for the most important event in the later Rapa Nui year, the Tangata Monu or Birdman competition. This ritual, which emerged as the old Moai building society declined, was governed by a solar and avian calendar. Each spring, warriors would wait at Orongo for the arrival of the sooty tern, the Monu Tara. The first man to retrieve a freshly laid egg from the perilous offshore islet of Motu Nui and swim back with it unbroken became the birdman for the year, securing divine favor and temporal authority for his clan. The timing was everything, dictated by the solstice sun and the migratory pattern of the birds, a fusion of solar and ecological cycles that decided political power. This calendar likely extended to the very foundations of the island. Many of the great ahu, the platforms that support the Moai, are aligned with astronomical precision. The ahu at Vinapu, with its stunningly fitted stonework, is oriented to the winter solstice sunset, while others point to the equinox sunrise. These were not just tombs or altars, they were permanent horizon calendars, giant stone sighting devices that locked the rhythm of ceremonies to the sun's extreme points. In an environment where deforestation and resource depletion were constant threats, such a calendar would have been a tool of survival. It would have dictated the sacred tapu periods for fishing certain species or harvesting particular plants, allowing stocks to recover. It would have scheduled the communal labor for agriculture and the distribution of scarce resources. The collapse of the old order may have even been a collapse of this temporal consensus when the careful cycles of renewal were broken, and the birdman cult arose as a new, more desperate way to ration time and hope. The Rapa Nui calendar, if we could fully read it, would tell a story not of cosmic creation, but of isolated people using the only fixed points they had, the sun, the stars, and the returning birds, to impose order on a fragile world, fighting against the tide of time itself. While the Rapa Nui fought for order on their island, a peninsular kingdom built its time upon a foundation of legendary antiquity. The traditional Korean calendar, often called the Dangun calendar, was a lunisolar system of immense historical depth, its epoch reaching back to a date that feels more like myth than history, the year 2333 before Common Era. This was the legendary founding year of Gojoseon, the first Korean kingdom, by the demigod ruler Dangun, born of a heavenly prince and a bear woman. To count years from this moment was to embed every present day within a national story over 4 millennia long, a continuous thread of identity that outlasted dynasties and invasions. The mechanics of the calendar were imported from China, following the same brilliant lunisolar principles of lunar months corrected by intercalary months to stay in sync with the sun. Yet Korea made this system its own. The 24 solar terms, those precise markers of the sun's position, were given unique Korean names that reflected the local climate and agricultural cycle. Instead of just great heat, they might use terms that spoke directly to the Korean summer monsoon. The months too carried distinct designations, often poetic and seasonal, tying the abstract passage of time to the specific rhythm of life on the Korean peninsula. This calendar was the heartbeat of tradition, governing the two most important holidays in Korean culture. Seollal, the Lunar New Year, is not a single day but a 3-day ceremony of family, ancestry, and renewal. On the first morning of the new year, families perform a deep bow called sebi to their elders, wishing them health and longevity, and receive blessings and often money in return. They then share a ritual meal of titiokguk, a soup with sliced rice cakes, where eating a bowl symbolically adds a year to your age. This connection between the calendar and aging leads to the unique Korean practice of nalja, or day counting. In this system, a child is considered 1 year old at birth, having spent a year in the womb, and everyone gains a year not on their individual birthday but collectively on Seollal. Your nalja is your age by this calendar count, which is why a Korean might say they are 1 or 2 years older than their international age. The other great pillar was Chuseok, the harvest festival on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month. Often called Korean Thanksgiving, it is a time when cities empty as people return to their ancestral hometowns. Families visit graves to tidy them and make offerings of rice, fruit, and songpyeon, half-moon-shaped rice cakes filled with sweet sesame or bean. They perform a bow to the ancestors, then gather under the harvest moon for feasting and traditional circle dances. This calendar was so woven into the fabric of life that when the Joseon dynasty, under external pressure, officially adopted the Gregorian calendar in 1895, it was not just a bureaucratic change but a cultural fracture. The old Dangun count was relegated to tradition while the new solar dates were used for government and business, yet the old rhythms proved unbreakable. To this day, Seollal and Chuseok are calculated by the old lunisolar rules, causing the dates to shift on the Gregorian calendar each year. The government declares official holidays based on these lunar calculations, and the entire modern, high-tech nation still grinds to a halt twice a year, pulled back into the ancestral tide of a calendar that counts its years from a god-king standing on a sacred mountain, reminding everyone that some time is not just measured but felt in the bones. That deep, ancestral time felt in Korea finds a parallel on another continent, in the sun-baked earth of North Africa. Here, the indigenous Berber people, the Amazigh, have maintained a calendar that is both a practical farmer's almanac and a quiet declaration of an identity that predates empires and faiths. The Berber calendar is a robust solar system, its structure borrowed from the old Julian calendar, which means it follows a familiar rhythm of 12 months beginning in January. But this is no simple copy. Its soul is amazing, and its starting point in history is a defiant statement. The Rapa New Year, called Yanaya, is celebrated on January 12th of the Gregorian calendar, which corresponds to the first day of January in the Julian system. This places it squarely in midwinter, a time of turning inward, of stored potential, and of honoring the land that sustains life. The true weight of this calendar, however, lies in its epoch. Berber years are counted from 950 before Common Era, a date that commemorates a profound victory. According to tradition, this marks the moment when the amazing King Shoshenq I, founder of Egypt's 22nd dynasty, achieved a major triumph, often associated with his campaign into the land of Israel. To begin counting time from a military and political victory of an indigenous North African leader is to root the present in a narrative of self-determination and ancient sovereignty. For the farmer in the Atlas Mountains or the oasis dweller in the Sahara, this calendar is not about ancient battles, but about the immediate dialogue with the earth. It divides the year into precise agricultural seasons, its months bearing names that are direct instructions or observations. You will find periods dedicated to the first plowing, to the weeding of fields, to the ripening of figs, and to the harvest of almonds. Each phase is tied to specific tasks, to the behavior of animals, and to the quality of the light. It is an oral encyclopedia of ecological knowledge passed down through generations, telling you when the soil is ready to receive seed and when the last frost has truly passed. This living practicality blossoms into vibrant celebration during Yanaya. Families gather for a feast centered around a special dish, often a hearty stew like tagula, a symbol of abundance and prosperity. Traditions vary by region, but common threads include sharing nuts and dried fruits, children receiving gifts, and rituals meant to ensure a fertile year ahead. A key custom involves placing an item, like a date pit or a coin, inside the communal bread or stew. Whoever finds it is believed to have good fortune for the coming year. In recent decades, Yanaya has transformed from a largely rural observance into a powerful public symbol, as amazing communities have advocated for greater recognition of their language and culture across North Africa. The celebration of the Rapa New Year has become an act of cultural reclamation. It is a day of music, poetry, and traditional dress, a conscious reconnection with a heritage that stretches back long before the Arabization of the region. The calendar, therefore, exists in two simultaneous states. In the quiet fields, it is a timeless, functional rhythm, a way of working with the sun and the soil. In the public square, it is a calendar of identity, its very count of years a silent, persistent reminder that another story of North Africa has been ticking along for nearly 3,000 years, waiting for its spring. From the defiant count of the Berber calendar to the lunar whispers of Rapa Nui, we have journeyed through a cosmos of time. 30 systems, each a universe of its own, prove that our modern grid of days is but one thread in a vast, shimmering tapestry of human ingenuity. These were never simple date keepers. They were stone and bronze manifestos of a profound truth, that to measure time is to define reality itself. They were cosmological maps charting the wobble of the Earth and the dance of Venus across millennia. They were social organizers, dictating the planting of maize, the payment of tribute, and the launch of empires. Most of all, they were divine contracts, sacred agreements where human ritual, the lighting of a new fire, the sacrifice of a heart, the silent observation of a crescent moon, was the price paid to keep the sun rising and the world from crumbling into chaos. The sheer complexity on display, from the Maya's long count to the Chinese sexagenary cycle, speaks to a fundamental human drive. We are pattern seekers, order makers. Faced with the terrifying vastness and randomness of the cosmos, we responded not with resignation, but with mathematics, with astronomy, with stories carved in stone and written in the stars. We built clocks from the sky itself to convince ourselves that time had meaning, that history had direction, and that our lives were part of a grand, intelligible design. This journey reveals not the primitive superstition of our ancestors, but the breathtaking sophistication of the human mind when confronted with eternity. So now the question turns to you. Among these 30 windows into ancient thought, which one captured your imagination most? Was it the terrifying precision of the Aztec sunstone, the poetic microseasons of Japan, or the personal destiny woven into the Zapotec Pi? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you crave more journeys into the mysteries of our past, be sure to subscribe. The story of human ingenuity is far from over, and the next chapter is always waiting.